Okay, this is a good question. It just gives you a list of accounts, and it really wants to test your knowledge as do you know what type of account it is, what its normal balance is, what financial statement it's on. And I'm going to respond to this fairly detailed. I don't know if this is really the level of information that you need, but let's just go through this. Salaries expense is an expense account, and all expenses are debit balances, and all expenses are on the income statement. Common stock is an equity account, and it has a credit balance, and it goes on the balance sheet. Notes receivable is an asset. It could be a current asset if it's receivable due in less than a year. Since it's a notes receivable, it might be a long-term asset. Now, I don't know if you need to define them as current and long-term or just the asset, but we'll do it the most detailed, which is long-term asset. And again, all assets have debit balances. And it goes on the balance sheet. Allowance for doubtful accounts. This is also a long-term asset. Specifically, though, this is a contra asset. And as a contra asset, it has a credit balance, a balance contrary to all the other assets. However, it still goes on the balance sheet. Interest receivable is a current asset, and because it's an asset, it has a debit balance. It goes on the balance sheet. Warranties payable is a current liability. All liabilities have credit balances, and it goes on the balance sheet. Supplies is a current asset. All assets have debit balances, and it goes on the balance sheet. Equipment is a long-term asset. All assets have debit balances, and it goes on the balance sheet. Interest revenue is a revenue account. All revenue accounts have credit balances, and it goes on the income statement. Sales revenue is a revenue account. All revenue accounts have credit balances, and it goes on the income statement. Dividends. Dividends is an equity account. It has a normal debit balance, and it goes on the statement of retained earnings. So it's equity, but it does not go on the balance sheet. Accounts receivable is a current asset. Pretend that says asset. And it has a debit balance because all assets have debit balances, and it goes on the balance sheet. Cost of goods sold is an expense. All expenses have debit balances, and it goes on the income statement. Interest expense is an expense. All expenses have debit balances, and it goes on the income statement. Salary payable is a current liability. All liabilities have credit balances, and liabilities go on the balance sheet.